Hi, and a very warm welcome to Wellbeing Mission Control. I'm really glad you could join me. I'm Greg Parry. I'm a wellbeing specialist, and we're talking about well-being. Perhaps one of the more stressful aspects of our lives is the necessity to make decisions. Decision making can be very, very stressful, and it's such a serious issue for people that we tend to find ways to avoid having to think too hard about the decisions we're making. I mean, does that sound surprising? Well, the most recent research has indicated that we tend to jump to conclusions. We take shortcuts. We ignore an awful lot of data, including important information about the way that we arrive at our conclusions. So we make the shortest jump possible from the invitation to make a decision to making a conclusion because it's just more efficient. At least it feels more efficient because we invest a lot less effort into the decision making process. We like things that are familiar. We are not very comfortable with change. We do not like uncertainty. So when we have to make a decision, it's amazing how that can become very, very stressful. It can become a source of anxiety. And unfortunately, because of that, we cut corners and we jump to sometimes very strange conclusions. The strangest thing about this is that it affects decision making across all aspects of human behavior. Whatever profession, whatever job you're thinking of, shortcuts are prevalent. In fact, when researchers get into this kind of dynamic, they're often surprised that people in positions of responsibility, people in positions of power, can come to some really strange decisions simply because they're ignoring a lot of the data in order to get the decision-making process out of the way. Whew, that just feels better. But we do benefit from taking our time, taking a step back. It doesn't feel comfortable, and most of us are under so much pressure. We want to leap into the end game, get to the conclusion, make a decision and move on as quickly as possible. There are situations where I'm sure that's justified, but if you can, there are a couple of things that you can consider to improve the quality of your decision making. One, slow it down. In my experience, I was very, very fortunate to have a couple of very, very successful mentors who encouraged me to avoid those knee-jerk decisions, which often felt right. Said, boy, you got to sleep on it. And it wasn't bad advice. To give yourself a little bit of time, bit of space, decompress, take away the pressure, and see what you could come up with. Quite often it meant that your subconscious was going to process the information and give you a different perspective by the time you woke up. Less fear, less anxiety, a little bit more clarity. If you can, delay the stress, delay the stressful point of having to make a decision under sometimes artificial conditions. Oh, we have to decide now. Take your time and get all the data together. We know that we're capable of making decisions on far too little information. We feel quite confident that our judgment is so good that with a handful of details we can see the big picture. It's rarely the case, and unfortunately we tend to fool ourselves a lot in this particular area. The second thing I'd like to suggest is that you might want to consult people who have experience in the field. It doesn't mean running an organization by consensus or committee. That's a very different subject. But it is about getting the right kind of input that can lend clarity to the whole decision-making process, particularly taking account of all the details and thinking about the consequences of the decision to make sure you make the best call with the information you've got. And by pooling the information, you're probably going to come up with a much, much better conclusion. So in conclusion, decision making is stressful. If you can slow the process down, if you're aware that you're probably jumping ahead too quickly and making, I wouldn't say a rash judgment, but coming to a decision without collecting all the data or assembling all the facts or understanding that maybe you don't have enough information to make a good call, that's a good step in the right direction to just putting yourself ahead of this rather strange human phenomenon of acting too quickly without adequate information to support the decision. And get experienced people around you, understand the situation and give you some really good feedback about what's involved, how the decision-making process will impact others, what are the future consequences. What do you think? I hope you found it useful. It played a very important part in my education, and I'm hoping it's something that you can benefit from too, whatever aspect of your life you're having to make decisions about. Feel free to share your comments and observations. It's always a treat to hear from you. And in the meantime, as I prepare to get on with my day, let me wish you an amazing time today. Good decision making.